The rain tapped softly on the windows of the small diner, blurring the view of the quiet street outside. Inside, the air smelled like fresh coffee and warm bread. Emily moved between the tables with gentle steps, careful not to disturb the calm hum of the few customers sitting inside. It wasn't a busy day, just a handful of regulars, chatting quietly, or lost in their own thoughts. Emily wore a simple uniform, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She had a soft smile, but her eyes held a tiredness that came from long hours and heavy worries. For weeks now, she had been working double shifts, barely stopping to rest. Her sister was sick, and the hospital bills were piling up fast. Every extra hour Emily spent here was a small sacrifice she was willing to make. She greeted each customer with quiet kindness, refilling coffee cups and folding napkins with practiced ease. Most people barely noticed her, but Emily didn't mind. She liked keeping to herself, focusing on her work. The diner's simple rhythm gave her a sense of control in a life that often felt unpredictable. As the rain slowed outside, Emily paused for a moment behind the counter, wiping her hands on a towel. Another long shift awaited, but she was ready. This was just another ordinary afternoon at the diner, or so it seemed. Just as Emily finished wiping down the counter, the diner's door swung open with a sharp creak. A woman stepped inside, shaking off her umbrella. She was well dressed, wearing a tailored coat and high heels that clicked on the tile floor. Her hair was perfect, and her eyes scanned the room with a sharp, almost calculating look. "Mrs. Carter," the waitress at the register whispered quietly to Emily, a warning in her voice. Mrs. Carter didn't wait for anyone to offer a table. She marched straight to the nearest one, glanced around, and immediately frowned. "Is this the best table you have? It's drafty and too close to the door." Her voice was cold, sharp as ice. Emily approached with a polite smile. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Would you prefer a different table?" Mrs. Carter didn't answer right away. Instead, she flipped open the menu and squinted at it as if it was written in a foreign language. "Is this really all you have? The choices are so limited. I expected better." Emily's smile didn't falter. "Our menu changes seasonally, and I'm happy to recommend some of our popular dishes if you like." Mrs. Carter gave a curt nod, but then shivered, pulling her coat tighter around her. "Also, it's freezing in here. Can someone turn up the heat?" Emily nodded. "Of course, ma'am. I'll take care of it right away." Though Mrs. Carter's words were cold and her tone sharp, Emily stayed calm and patient. She knew better than to respond with anger. Instead, she turned and moved toward the thermostat, doing her best to make the woman feel at least a little comfortable. The quiet hum of the diner returned, but beneath it all was a strange tension, like the calm before a storm. As the minutes passed, Mrs. Carter's coldness turned sharper. She snapped her fingers sharply to get Emily's attention. Yes you, can you bring me my order already? I've been waiting forever." Emily's hands trembled just a little, but she forced herself to stay steady. "I'm very sorry, ma'am. Your meal will be out shortly." Mrs. Carter rolled her eyes dramatically, loud enough for a few nearby customers to notice. "Honestly, I don't understand why places like this even stay open. The service is terrible. Maybe if they hired people who actually knew what they were doing, things would be better." Emily's heart sank. She had worked hard, learned every detail of her job, but the woman's words cut deep. Still, she said nothing, only nodded politely and walked away to the kitchen. When Emily returned with the food, Mrs. Carter barely glanced at the plate. "Is this all? Looks like they don't even care about the customers anymore." The woman's voice was loud enough for others to hear. "This place is falling apart. It's no wonder no one wants to work here. Why would they hire people like you?" She sneered at Emily, making the comment sting even more. Emily felt a flush rise to her cheeks. She gripped the tray tightly, trying to steady herself. A quiet tremble ran through her body, but beneath the surface, she held her ground. She knew giving in to anger wouldn't help. A few customers glanced over, their eyes filled with sympathy but also uncertainty. No one spoke up. The diner stayed quiet except for the distant rain and the low murmur of conversation. Emily took a deep breath and returned to the counter. She wiped her hands on her apron, telling herself to keep calm. She reminded herself why she was here, working hard to support her sister. Though the storm of Mrs. Carter's words raged around her, Emily stood firm, even if only just barely. Just when it seemed Mrs. Carter couldn't be any harsher, she knocked over her glass of water. The clear liquid spilled across the table, dripping onto the floor. "Oh great, just perfect." Mrs. Carter snapped, glaring at Emily, "This is your fault. How do you even manage to do your job?" Emily's face flushed with embarrassment, but she didn't say a word. She quickly grabbed some napkins and started to clean the mess. Mrs. Carter stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. She looked around the diner with a sharp, demanding stare. "Get me someone important. A manager, someone who actually matters. I'm not dealing with this nonsense." The whole diner went quiet. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. All eyes turned toward the tense scene. Emily's heart pounded, but she kept her expression calm. She lowered her gaze and quietly excused herself. Her hands trembled as she moved toward the back room. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The tension in the air was thick, like the calm right before a storm breaks. Everyone wondered, what would happen next? Would Emily return with the manager, or would Mrs. Carter get her way? The silence stretched on, holding the room in suspense. Emily disappeared through the door behind the counter, her steps steady but her mind racing. The tension in the diner was almost unbearable. Mrs. Carter stood near the table, arms crossed, still glaring around as if daring anyone to challenge her. Then Emily returned. But this time she wasn't carrying a manager's clipboard, or a simple apology. Instead she reached inside her coat, and pulled out a small shiny badge. The badge caught the light, reflecting a clear emblem that read Internal Affairs. Emily's calm voice filled the room. "I'm someone important enough." Her eyes locked on Mrs. Carter's. The diner fell silent, as the meaning of those words sank in. Mrs. Carter's face went pale. Her lips trembled, and for the first time her confident mask cracked. The other customers exchanged surprised looks. Some leaned forward, curious. The quiet hum of the diner was replaced by a heavy stillness. Emily took a slow step forward. "I'm here investigating complaints about workplace abuse and discrimination. This isn't just about a bad day at the diner, it's about how people in positions of power treat those beneath them." Mrs. Carter's eyes widened in shock. "I don't know what you mean," she stammered, but her voice lacked conviction. Emily continued, "You're the regional supervisor for the company we're looking into. I recognized you right away." There was no anger in Emily's voice, only quiet determination. This was no accident. Emily wasn't just a waitress, she was undercover, watching, waiting, testing. The power balance had shifted completely. The woman who demanded respect suddenly found herself exposed and powerless. Mrs. Carter's lips pressed into a thin line as the weight of her own actions pressed down on her. Emily kept her gaze steady as Mrs. Carter struggled to find words. The cold woman who had belittled everyone now seemed small, trapped by the truth. "This wasn't a coincidence," Emily said quietly. "I wasn't just serving you food, I was observing how you treat people, your employees, your customers. We've had reports that you're responsible for unfair treatment and bullying at your company." Mrs. Carter swallowed hard, her eyes darting around the diner, hoping for an escape that wasn't there. "I never meant for it to be like that," she whispered. Emily shook her head. "Actions speak louder than words. People show who they really are when they think no one important is watching." The other customers listened, some nodding quietly in agreement. The atmosphere had changed. The diner was no longer just a place to eat, it was the stage for a lesson in justice. Mrs. Carter looked down, shame washing over her face. Emily continued, "This investigation has been ongoing for months. Your behavior here confirms what we already suspected." The woman who demanded a someone important now faced someone with real authority and accountability. Emily took a deep breath. "You have a chance to make things right. But first you need to understand that respect isn't demanded. It's earned." The tension in the room broke just a little. Mrs. Carter nodded slowly, defeated but listening. Emily folded her badge back into her coat pocket, and took a step back. The story wasn't over, But the moment had changed everything. Mrs. Carter stood frozen for a moment, the weight of the truth pressing down on her. She opened her mouth to speak, but no apology came out at first. The room was silent, save for the soft drip of rain outside. Finally she whispered, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize how I was acting." Emily looked at her calmly, her voice steady. "It's not just about today, it's about every time someone was made to feel small because of their position. This ends now." Some of the customers quietly clapped, not wanting to make a scene but showing support for Emily's words. Mrs. Carter gathered her things slowly and left the diner, her face pale and shoulders heavy with shame. The rain outside had stopped, and the sun peeked through the clouds. Emily watched her go, feeling a quiet satisfaction. She had done what she came to do, to protect those who couldn't speak up. Her co-workers came over, whispering thanks and admiration. One older man at the counter said, "You handled that better than most would. Proud of you." Emily gave a small smile, her heart still racing but lighter. The power wasn't in shouting or demanding respect, it was in standing firm, even when no one else would. Sometimes the most important battles happen quietly, with patience, strength, and the truth. After Mrs. Carter left, the diner slowly returned to its usual rhythm. The soft clatter of dishes, the quiet chatter of customers, and the gentle hum of the coffee machine filled the air again. Emily wiped down the counter one last time before slipping back into her routine. Her co-workers glanced at her with quiet respect, their smiles warm but careful. No one needed to say anything. They all knew Emily had faced something much bigger than a difficult customer today. One regular customer, an elderly man sitting near the window, caught her eye and nodded. "You did good," he said softly. Emily nodded back, feeling a small, honest smile grow on her lips. The weight of the day's tension began to lift, replaced by a quiet sense of victory. She thought about her sister, waiting at home, and how every sacrifice was worth it if it meant a better future. The badge tucked away in her coat was more than just a symbol of authority, it was a reminder that real power doesn't come from anger or loud voices. It comes from patience. From watching. From standing firm when it counts. Emily glanced out the window, the sun was breaking through the clouds, casting warm light across the wet streets. Sometimes, the hardest battles are fought in silence. And sometimes the quietest victories mean the most. The diner was just a small place in a small town, but today, it was the center of something important. And Emily was exactly where she needed to be.